Oh, we have, I see something that I had not seen this name for quite a bit, which is Han, Jóvenes Ayudando a Niñas y Niños, a very exciting math tutoring project created a few years ago during the pandemic. So, Eliana, it's really exciting to have you here this evening. Wow, what an amazing audience. Claudia Uribe, ¿qué tal? Wow, so fantastic. This is really, really fun. Juanma, and and I'm just naming the people that I know, right? So that's not too fair to everybody joining from so many different parts of the world. We have people from Brazil, from India. Wow. Alberta, Canada. This is amazing. I think we're good to go. It's 3:05 now.
Yeah, thank you, Gustavo. Well, I would like to welcome Siya. She's amazing to have you here, Siya. I'm very excited to have you here. Uh, I would like to start with something special that is, I have heard you so many times just telling your story. In that way, I want to share, if it's possible that you can share your story. You can share also your journey across different organizations and the evolution that you have seen in education. Because you started in different organizations and now you are at the forefront in OpenAI and doing some amazing things. In that way, can you start with that part? Will be fantastic.
Yes, thank you so much, Eric and the team. And hi, everyone. Thanks for making time this evening. Really excited to see like the amazing talent that's in this group. And really want to make this an intimate conversation. So please drop in your questions and comments as we go through this. So, a little bit about my story in education. I started working in education when I was an undergrad. I was at a large state school studying computer engineering, and I felt like the curriculum wasn't built in a way that was helping everyone become an engineer. A lot of my friends started dropping out of engineering. I became a straight C student, and it was just very difficult to try to understand why I wasn't able to learn the material in the way that professors were teaching. This is a problem that all of us in education know well, right? This whole one size fits all class model does not work because students learn in different ways. And what it does is it prevents a lot of people from pursuing career paths that can help them live like more financially rewarding and successful lives just because the content isn't designed in a way for them to understand. So I published a book about this problem right before my 19th birthday. That was the year 2012, right when Udacity and Coursera were coming up. A lot of momentum was being built in the space of online education. And so I published on MOOCs because I was like, okay, this is the way we'll provide great education to everyone around the world. And I joined Udacity as an early employee. Got to see the whole bootcamp space essentially evolve. Like we went from MOOCs to those boot camps, small on open online courses, closed online courses, cohort-based courses. Got to experience that through Udacity and Springboard. Also went to Hugsy in between, started working on Harvard X and HBX, all trying to solve this problem of how do we bring great education to everyone in a way that makes sense to them. And then I guess I had my ChatGPT moment in November 2022, like many of you, and realized that maybe ChatGPT was this answer to personalized education that a lot of us as an industry have been striving for so long. And I joined OpenAI in the spring of 2024 to help build up our education vertical. Because I think ChatGPT like does so many things very well, but at its core, it understands individuals, like their goals, how communicate and helps them understand content better. And my aspiration right now is still the same, I guess, 12 years in, to help people just be able to build better financially rewarding lives and pursue better education opportunities through that too.
Thank you, Sia. We are gonna have Gustavo and Paty guide the conversation with different questions, but also if you have a question, just put it on the chat and we will open the forum for you to just to participate. But go ahead, Gustavo.
Now I'm good to go. Thank you again, Sia, for sharing that very. I think when you say that ChatGPT moment, November 2022, it strikes a bell for many of us. And it seems like a long time ago, but it hasn't been even 3 years, right? And it's very, very, we were just discussing before allowing everybody. It's just really exciting times to be having this conversation because ChatGPT 5 was recently launched, and that has certainly created a major hype around the people that has followed up with this process for quite a bit now. However, when we think of schools, K-12 system, right, and even when we think higher education, we know that sometimes um, in these both ecosystems, thinking of AI doesn't always necessarily translate to like immediate adoption, immediate acceptance. Sometimes, there are feelings that emerge that have to do with concerns. There are emotions at stake. And when we think of the way that K-12 education systems and higher education systems have uh, embraced this new technology, I think it's very. I don't know if success stories because everything seems so recent, right? But what are the most compelling and transformative cases that, from your perspective, you've been able to access so far that might inspire people that are into those adaptive mindsets, beginning their journeys into convincing themselves that there's something high value, considering that challenge of offering all learners an equal opportunity to access high quality education that makes sense for them, right? Not for the average student.
Yeah, great question. So I guess two things to share here. One is we'll talk about like how the models themselves have changed and what they enable for education. And then I'll also share how the education sector has kind of changed in the past 2 years because of AI. And we'll talk about some of the pushback there and like the sentiment that's happening in education. So the first thing about the models themselves, when GPT-3 came, it was a great model, but it was kind of like talking to a high school student. So it had like the knowledge of kind of like high school student, communicated like that, like sometimes irritating, sometimes helpful. Like there was like a mix of responses there. And it did hallucinate a lot when it didn't know the answer. It would try to please you, like, I mean, like a teenager would, maybe, and then try to come up with answers. GPT-4 was like a college student. So much more like academic, much more scholarly in the field that I was studying. So kind of like an undergraduate student level of competency. And GPT-5, which we just launched last week, is that of a team of PhDs now. So it has expertise that are very deep in every field that you want to discuss with it. And now with agents and the way that we're kind of enabling people to become orchestrators of AI, the goal is that these different PhDs will all work together to help you solve your problems and think bigger for like the different projects you're working on. So that's kind of where we are in the how the models have grown. Much better reasoning capabilities, much less hallucination as just the expertise of the models has gone up. So I guess what this does at its core, and what I really like about it as a user, is that it helps almost democratize access to very closed information from before. I had a conversation with ChatGPT this week about this politician who I'm seeing rise really quickly in the American politics scene. And I asked ChatGPT, like, how did he do this? And ChatGPT broke it down in the way like a political strategist would. In the past, this kind of knowledge was so restrained, right? Like in the sense like, yes, there are online courses about how to become a politician. Yes, there are great books about it. But can someone have this like very deep dialogue about how this politician in Ohio is like building their brand and what we can all learn from them? Like that is remarkable because now suddenly I felt like I had Hillary Clinton's like team around to be able to advise me on this, right? So that kind of like democratization is so powerful. So now technically you can actually ask it about anything. I want to be a Nobel laureate in the field. I want to be the COO of a rocket ship company. Help me work backwards to get there. And you get like the best like knowledge and intelligence in the world to help you achieve those goals. So I think that's super powerful. I tell everyone to start with AI, just like improving emails, because that's like the first use case people are like, okay, this is valuable enough for me. But then the value use case that I think changes people's perception is this career pathway one. So they're like, this is who I am, this is who I want to become. Build an 18-month roadmap or 18-year roadmap, whatever it is, to get me there. And that becomes a really powerful coach and partner for you. So that's how I talk to people who are not like maybe bought in on the AI front. But as far as the sector itself goes, in 2023, so a couple of months after the launch of ChatGPT, a lot of school districts and universities banned ChatGPT. You all might remember that time, like New York had some very high profile schools, a lot of other universities. But then something changed over a 10-month period. It's because in 2024, or like late 2023, early 24, a lot of universities started adopting this in a large way. My hypothesis on that change is that influencers like Ethan Mollick from the University of Pennsylvania really like showcased the value of AI in education. And they destigmatized that like entire conversation. They were just like, okay, this is where it can actually have an impact on both educational outcomes, but also job readiness. And that like helped a lot of universities and other professors starting to get on board. I roughly talk about how last year in 2024, we had maybe 3 or 4 professors per university that were experimenting with AI. And now we have 30 to 40% of professors on every campus experimenting with AI in their classrooms. So huge shift. Still a long way to go because there are questions we need to answer about academic integrity, cheating, privacy. But it's been fascinating to see that evolution and adoption.
Amazing. There is a follow-up question on the issue of democratizing access to information. Just so you can like gather some thoughts around that, and perhaps after Paty is done with her question, we can find some time to address the issue of copywriting issues. So Paty, why don't you take it? Thank you so much, Siya. And I just shared a fantastic book by Professor Ethan Mollick, which is an awesome reference by you, Siya. He's done a great job leading the way for adoption in the education landscape.
Thank you very much, Gustavo, for that. And I think this is a good moment, Sia, to connect with the educational systems. That's the side where I am, and I want to maybe speak more from the voices of teachers. I think there's a lot of, imagine those countries, Mexico, like with that are not that technologized, right? Their sense of, am I going to disappear? What should I be teaching my students? How I should be teaching now? How I involve IA into my daily planning lessons? So maybe a reflection for them, from your voice to them, in the sense of, I know that there has been a lot of recommendations, but from your mind, I mean, and from your heart, what could be some insightful insights that could be something that we can share to the teachers all over the world saying, come on, let's be part of a team or something like that?
It really surprises me when teachers raise concerns about the fear of being replaced. Because when I think back to my like 12 years of K-12 education, I remember certain teachers for who they were and how they made me feel. I don't remember them for their lesson plans or the quiz grading or any of those kind of things, right? It was about who they told me I could become that me. And that's also why they got into the field. They didn't get into it for lesson planning, right? So all of those things that I think that people fear are the things that like AI will actually help them do better so they can spend more time with the students, coaching, mentoring, inspiring, and helping them feel seen. We know that loneliness crisis is a problem. We know like students are struggling with ambition after COVID-19. All of these things are what I think teachers should focus on and outsource things so they don't feel burnt out to AI. And so I guess that's how I think about like the sentiment for teachers in general. In Latin America, I think the opportunity is super exciting for 2 reasons. One is that Latin America has the opportunity to leapfrog in AI adoption. So it doesn't have to replicate like the slow rollout over the past 2 years. And just like how like mobile phones and other things leapfrogged landlines in emerging countries, AI can bypass a lot of the entrenched like inefficiencies in the education systems that exist. Really bullish on that. And the second thing is that it can help bridge like urban and rural divides. So because ChatGPT and other AI models speak fluently in Spanish and the different dialects, it can help provide like very high quality education content in the languages that are relevant, in the cultural contexts that are relevant, and help kind of expand access, embedding like local history examples or use case studies or whatever that makes sense for learners in those regions.
No, that's amazing, Siya. And I think I think that we have the chance to leapfrog. I love that word because it seems somehow like very with a huge expectations, but on the other hand, like it's not that far away from the place where we're standing. And some words for the learners. What will you think about? Think about the teenagers and think about more the students, high schools, universities. I think there's a lot of people here from universities, and I think would love to learn more about from not only for compulsory education, basic education, but maybe higher educational levels.
So a couple of big benefits on the student side that I want more students to think about, especially in Latin America, is one is around like AI assisted entrepreneurship. Now you have like this very powerful co-founder ready to help build any sort of business with you. You don't need a team anymore. Like I built a startup when I was an undergrad, and there were so many things we didn't know that we didn't know and wasted so much months and time over. And now you have this like high-powered co-founder that can work with you. And I know Latin America is investing a lot in the entrepreneurship scene. As Patricia mentioned, I visited Guadalajara, and it was just amazing to see the startups that are coming out of there. So just being able to invest more in student entrepreneurship, I think, is super powerful. And professors in the United States also are emphasizing that a lot. Jeffrey Busgang from HBS talks a lot about the 10x founder because of AI, and I'd love to help more students realize that. And then the second thing, just more advanced strategic thinking and multilingual communication. So now you can not only advance your strategic skills in a big way, but you can also be able to communicate with different types of stakeholders. Every year, I've been working for what, 10, 12 years at this point. Every year, I would get 1 year better at being in business, right? I'd like write 1 year better level of documents, I'd talk to executives in 1 year better increments. But now I feel ChatGPT has let me jump 4 or 5 years just because I'm just like, okay, this is my first draft of the doc. Help me reiterate, like, help me think bigger about this. Help me like improve my thought process. And students can unlock that as a huge advantage to like come in, not being an entry level person, but being someone who is a few years ahead, which I think is so powerful.
Thank you, Siya. I have a question, like, how do you see and how we were speaking about this the last time that I saw you, which was several months ago. When a student is using ChatGPT, it's about the number of prompts that they use. Like he can use one prompt to have the whole answer, or he can use 20 different prompts. In that way, the critical thinking and a lot of different things that we don't see can be developed on the student to really be proficient on ChatGPT and the use of it. And it not just on the sense of artificial intelligence, but also in the sense of being an expert in the use of a ChatGPT or any other tool. But in the long term, in the next maybe 2 years, because it's not going to happen more than that, how do you see that is going to evolve the student in his career? And right now, like a lot of students, they were like, I'm going to study to become a lawyer. And suddenly, well, ChatGPT can be a much more expert lawyer than you if you go to a law school. In that way, how do you see the education that is going to change on this kind of a system that we have, like was created by the is in Latin America is set by the government, the rules and the way that we procedure, but how do you see that this is going to change?
As far as like the career paths the students will pursue?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think two things here. One thing is that what you mentioned earlier about like the prompting piece of it. I was really surprised the other day when I realized that my friend basically takes the first answer the ChatGPT gives him for everything. Like it's like, okay, help me build a doc or a report, and just takes it as it is when ChatGPT produces a model. And I was really surprised that he doesn't push back more, right? Because that skill is something we all need to master and also be able to teach students. Pushing back, being like, okay, this is not like smart enough. This is not strategic enough. This is not poetic enough. Whatever way that you want to take it, giving ChatGPT that feedback helps it iterate to get you to a better output. And I think that there's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania who captured this really well. He always used to have an essay as the final submission for, and now he's like, okay, my students are going to use ChatGPT anyway, might as well require it. And he asks them to submit like the prompt log of how they conversed with ChatGPT. Some students only go back 2 or 3 times, have a pretty good essay, are fine with it. Some students go back and forth 19 or 20 times to get to an essay that they're satisfied with. He uses this as your ability to articulate what you're looking for and basically orchestrate that into existence. And that's super fascinating because he thinks that that is such a core skill, and he uses those logs to understand where students are and help them get better at that skill set. Because now you're essentially a manager of this team of PhD students of very high talent, and your job is to make sure that they produce an output that is extraordinary in nature. So, the skills that I think people should focus on right now, and we'll get into the career paths in a second, is number one is the ability to understand what really exceptional output looks like. What do the greatest books and art and literature and stuff showcase in terms of exceptional output? And understand that so you can orchestrate your AI to get you there. We don't need more mediocre emails or mediocre articles, right? We need exceptional pieces to come out of this era of human civilization. And then the second piece is like the ability to communicate back and forth with AI to get to that exceptional output. And so those are the two things that I focus a lot on and encourage like different education institutions to think about. And then, as far as the career paths of the future, I really think we're going to see the rise of many billion-dollar companies with like 1 or 2 people and like lots of AI agents. I think this is an exceptional time to build. People think that like big tech is going to capture the entire market. It's not. There are going to be so many niche companies designed to solve human problems. Think about the infrastructure problems we all have everywhere in the world, right? Think about the healthcare problems. There's so many different industries that need niche solutions to help target individuals and help improve their. And I think this is where a huge opportunity for career development comes in for people.
Fantastic. Thank you. We have a question in the chat that was about the copyrights. Like, how is a year ago, 2 years ago, there was a lot of complaint by different authors about copyrights and how GPT was using this in that way. Also, not just ChatGPT, the people using ChatGPT were using a lot of material from different people in that way. How is this something that we have to focus in the educational environment?
Great question. So a couple months ago, we launched university partnerships to help enable help solve a lot of these problems. So it's called Next Gen AI. I'll drop it in chat here. This was in partnership with a number of major research institutions around the world and also major libraries. So they would provide content that would be OpenAI models. And it's like so cool. Like Sarah Fryer, the CFO of OpenAI, talked about how like Oxford's library's earliest thesis comes from the 1400s. And all of that stuff is becoming digitized, is coming online, and AI models are learning from it. It's like so cool to imagine someone in the 1400s writing this kind of thesis. Like I'm super curious about what they wrote about, how they wrote it. But this kind of like the partnerships with universities and these libraries is helping improve our future models. And they're done in collaboration with these places that store the archives and making that much easier. So copyright is a big issue. Like we obviously don't want to use any content that is not approved, and this partnership and others like it are helping solve for that.
I think that maybe we can just go back. I mean, in terms of, I think I've got so many things on my mind. So yeah, I love the things I have more strict with the prompts and how we connect more and we ask more. And I think that the way just to the ones who just connect or are getting into the conversation, how you start differentiating from ChatGPT 3, 4, and 5. And I think that understanding that when you say, imagine that you are the manager of PhDs that really know well what they're doing, and you have to connect and to use their knowledge as much as you can to get something new. I think it's super powerful. I think that's from like until now something that I'm just going crazy about the way you mention and how you say it. And I think that maybe we can just complement what you were saying related with the whole world. What are your expectations for the next? I think there's no long-term perspective. The long term is, I think, 1 month. And just to say something interesting is I was last week in Argentina talking with some Chilean. I think Gustavo will love to hear this. And the thing is they launched a survey about what was long term for the Chilean people. And overall speaking, they answered 90 days. For them, long term, when you think about long-term perspective, it's 90 days. Imagine that, like just 3 months. So what we think about now, where are you standing, and what would you love to see in the educational agenda happen with the use of ChatGPT?
And again, the aspiration in 90 days, is that correct?
Yeah.
Um, Super cool. So, okay, 90 days from now, we are going into a back to school season right now. A lot of universities and school districts are opening up for the new school year. What I'd love to see is more educators, both in K-12 and in higher ed, experiment with bringing AI in classrooms that benefit students. We're seeing this through like curriculum transformation. We're seeing where professors are like, okay, you know what? Use AI for this. Let's talk about where it was helpful and where it wasn't. That kind of transparent conversation needs to happen. AI is not perfect. We need to talk about the areas where AI misled students or where it hallucinated or any of the different types of issues or maybe didn't produce good enough content. And we also need to talk about where it was supportive and what it did well. And I think the best way professors and teachers do this is by talking about where they used AI in the classroom too. Some of you might have read this like controversial article a few months ago about a Northeastern University student being disappointed that their professor was using AI. And they're like, hey, I pay $8,000 for this class. Like, why is the professor using AI, right? That kind of secret use is not cool. I think professors should be like, okay, this is where I used AI. This is where it helped me improve this lesson plan for you. And this is where it didn't do well. And this is where my expertise comes in as an educator. And I think that open dialogue helps a lot. I'm a big proponent, if any of you read my LinkedIn posts, of like AI disclosure forms, AI reflection forms, however different universities address them. But those are like 5-minute forms that go at the end of an assignment where students can actually share where they used AI and where it was helpful and not. And that gives professors unprecedented insights into how students think. Like we never knew how students came up with assignments, right? Yes, we can show the work and whatever, but you don't know where it came from or how they thought about it. But this is a whole new like glimpse into student behavior that I think educators can benefit from. So I think my recommendations are bring AI into the classroom, experiment with where it works, help customize the curriculum for students as much as you can, use AI reflection forms to see how they're using it, and just have these honest conversations. We're in the middle of a really interesting transition, and it's like exciting to see.
Love it. Thank you very much, Siya.
So yeah, I loved your post on the disclosure forms, and I think that touches on a very important point, which pertains like the ethical domains, artificial intelligence, as I don't and I don't want to go to the more black or white kind of approach, where we say, hey, like, and you said it, like teachers' concerns about them getting replaced by AI, right? Like, I don't think that's where we want to be. This is a conversation that I really appreciate because we've been seeing things with nuance, right? So it's not black and white. However, there are ethical concerns, and I think addressing the fact that if we are incorporating AI as a, let's say, team member into our own processes of producing academic output, right? That's got to be disclosed, and that's got to be disclosure because of a reason that it's inherently moral, inherently ethical, right? And you mentioning Professor's Ethan Mollick's work, he has these principles, right? And like the idea that there has to be a human behind the wheel all the time. A lot about how can leaders, and this is a particular question because we've talked already about teachers, we even talked about students, But we know that leadership certainly plays a role in how these new technologies are embraced or not within the educational landscape and workplace. So if you had to say one thing to educational leaders for them to engage with artificial intelligence, particularly with ChatGPT or many of the tools that are currently available, what would that piece of advice be? Not only in a way that is actionable, but also in a way that takes into account the whole moral and ethical standards that need to be in place to secure a positive and constructive adoption.
One thing I want to clarify is that I don't think AI reflection forms will be around in maybe 3 or 4 years. I think that this is a transition tool right now, similar to the way that we no longer do or perplexity to like search something. I think it's a transition tool as the system adopts and becomes comfortable with AI being part of it. And I tell professors all the time that your students are going to graduate and use ChatGPT Enterprise in the workplace. So this is a tool that's going to be around at every stage of their lives. And the sooner that we can help teach them how to use it well, the better off their careers will be. So just wanted to make that clarification. The second piece is on the educator front. I think that this is like the way that I would encourage educators to think about it is that this is an opportunity to provide hyper customized education in a way that they couldn't in the past. Professors tell me that they used to make two types of midterms, like A and B, and rotate it every year so the upperclassmen didn't share their answer key with younger students. But now they can create like 25 or 30 customized variations that midterm. And they can give it to students, test want to learn. So professor used a midterm for like a student who was interested in aeronautics to have like that type of midterm versus a student who was interested in sports management. So now we have the opportunity, like super handy, to customize the learning experience for each individual to help them fulfill their life's potential or interests in a way that didn't exist before. I'm seeing a bunch of questions in chat about how we can make ChatGPT a better educator. I don't know if you all have seen our study mode, which we launched about 2 weeks ago. Just dropped in a post about it, but basically, study mode is the way we're trying to improve the education experience. Study mode doesn't jump to answers. It actually asks questions and goes back and forth using Socratic method to help students kind of get to the answers. And it's been super cool to try out in all different fields, everything from business through engineering, K-12, like whatever kind of content you want to do. It helps guide the students. And I think this is a cool way we're experimenting.
Thank you, Sia. We have other questions in the chat, and also for all the participants, if you have any questions, and please just raise your hand and we can give you the mic to put your question.
Maybe we can read it, if that's okay, Eric. Maybe we can read some 3 questions, Sia, and help the others. In the meantime, they decide to open their microphone. So I think there's one from Edward Marks that's asking, like, do you see a student approaching prompt by asking AI a series of questions as kind of critical thinking? I think that you mentioned somehow, but if there's something else that you want to add on that, that's amazing. And Pilar says that, in your opinion, how can we use AI to promote complex and extensive reading among high city students in order to develop reflexive thinking? I think the creative thinking, critical thinking, reflexive thinking is all about it. I mean, in a context where information is consumed in small and rapid snippets. Hisako, do you wanna raise? Go ahead.
Can
Go
I?
ahead.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much for your insightful talk, everyone. My passion, I used to work for the AI, like education part as well, for especially for the higher ed. But my passion really lies in how AI could foster the family engagement, like more for like early childhood. So my question is, could you share your perspective, or maybe like a company perspective, but the potential roadmap for applying generative AI for children, or maybe like a parenting in the future? That would be really good to know.
Parenting, you said, right?
Yeah, parenting, or maybe using AI for early childhood.
Yeah, great question. So OpenAI currently the under 18 audience. All of our products are designed for higher ed, but we do serve like K-12 educators as knowledge workers. I think there's a lot more research that needs to happen about early childhood and where AI fits into that journey. But the coolest ways that I hear a lot of parents using it is both like for solving day-to-day problems, asking about health, asking about how like they can teach their child, but also about asking the AI to build really good storytelling for their children. And I think that is like so powerful, getting your child to be the star of a story that's different every night. It's just fascinating. And I think it captures some of the best types of relationship building a lot of us grew up with. But it takes that to the next level because there's so much creativity that's accessible to you now. So I appreciate that. I think for parents, there's going to be a lot more use that'll come out of AI as AI models become more customized and remember better. And I hope that it's going to continue to grow.
Well, I'm also studying at Paty right now. And yeah, I think like the children's gonna be really talkative because they have so many why questions. And I think the AI, especially for the conversational AI, could be a good mediator for the kids and also giving some good topics for the parents or the caregivers. So I think I will do really deep dive into in this future since I wanted to execute on the practical way. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hisako. Go ahead, Alejandro.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all for hosting this. Question. I remember I'm from the 90s, so I still remember not having a phone, not having really access to internet, being in school with physical books. But I also lived the transition of actually getting a computer for high school and using the computer and how Google, the internet, access to phones being more affordable for all kinds of income levels has transformed not only the education, but also as a whole. Has OpenAI started? Do you believe OpenAI is a revolution? Is the next Google? Is the next phone revolution across the world? And if so, how is OpenAI positioning itself to be the next leader and change the next phase of world and of people overall?
Yeah, great question. I do think it's a very transformative technology and a very transformative company also, both in terms of like the products we build and how we help users understand them, but also how we operate internally. It really surprises people that we have less than 3,000 employees across all of OpenAI. And when you think about that, or like our business team, which is like 400 people, it's very different compared to other businesses that you might think of along with OpenAI. And the way that that happens is we just use AI so much internally as well. And we use that, like our goal is to kind of become native company and to produce incredible products and outcomes despite scrappy teams. There's 7 people on the education team globally for OpenAI, right? So very, very small teams. So I think that's been the transformative part of OpenAI. I used to work at AWS, awesome company, right? But very different culture when you think about like the scope and the like number of people who support it, right? And then as far as like the responsibility of like educating and empowering other people to use it, we spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to help companies, universities, and individuals move up the AI adoption curve. For education, we have these different stages, like how we get individuals to use it, how we get teams and departments to use it, and how we go organization wide, right? And we're teaching those best practices across and hoping that more organizations can become AI native as well, hopefully more efficient and be able to produce a lot more.
So yeah, I do have a question because typically in the education landscape, and I'm thinking about in terms of policy, right? You typically have top-down policy. So you have teachers being the last mile implementer of something that was determined many levels above them. And I'm very curious about your conversations around what do you do with the insights you guys have when you access the way that educators all over the world are interacting with ChatGPT in a way that reveals patterns in their instructional needs? Because what we see is when the direction is top down and there's typically a lot of friction in adopting those policies because they don't actually represent or they don't relate to the way that teachers are actually manifesting needs in their everyday work. So I'm really curious to know if you are actually considering a moment in which all of that data and all of the insights around built upon that data might actually enable you guys to work with governments in a way that makes policy closer to how teachers are actually experiencing their needs every day.
Yeah, great question. I do think the power needs to be in the educators' hands for this, because I think educators understand the nuances around their classroom better than anyone else. And we need to be able to utilize that specialized skill set and knowledge to help them figure out where AI fits in. So I'm dropping a link to one of our first like global affairs partnerships in this realm. We partnered with the American Federation of Teachers, which is one of the largest like educator-led initiatives in the United States, to empower 400,000, that's about like 1 in 10 teachers in the US, to kind of learn about AI literacy. The very first step of us getting anything right is AI literacy for everyone. And so being able to like teach educators how to use that and then help them make those decisions for their classroom and their students is like how we're pursuing this. So we launched this in the United States. Our global affairs team is working with governments around the world to figure out what makes sense for other regions as well.
Fantastic, thank you.
I would like to invite Andrew to present the question, or
right.
Angela.
Thank you, Eric. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, fantastic.
Thank you, Siya, for presentation. And by the way, thanks for the event up in New York. Very good with you guys. I wrote with the tools really able to make learning so quick, right? With knowledge so widely available. And for a long time, we've had a need to teach more durable skills such as collaboration, communication, empathy. How do you see that learning can actually change? Should we enable these youth to kind of level up as humans and not be bound to recall and facts, but level up in terms of the problems that we're solving, because AI is able to help us solve the expertise layer?
There are two things that I hope that are the skills that we focus on now. One is around increased exposure, and the other is increased agency. What I mean by that is that previously we were still limited by what we saw. So, what you see in your high school or your college environment is kind of how you peg yourself and what your life can become to a big degree, right? Like where you grow up, all of these kind of things, a lot of them are out of your hand as an individual. Like what your parents are, what they do, what they teach you, like what kind of K-12 system you go through. All of these are like things that are typically outside of an individual's hands. But the way that AI can help increase of who you can become is super powerful. So now I think that there's no, like, if we're able to have these meaningful conversations about like that future career progression, that skill development, all of that as individuals, I think that people can just achieve so much more than they could have previously. And then the second thing is agency. I think there's like, we need to teach people about how this is the era to build, right? I think because of COVID-19 and other factors, there's a lot of lack of motivation across a lot of young people now. And how can we like teach that agency that now with one evening of vibe coding, you can build a really cool app that helps solve your problem in your personal life or professional life or coding or gaming or whatever it is, right? And helping them get excited to just build more is super powerful. And those two combined together, I think people can achieve way more than generations could have.
Amen. Our kids are capable of so much. That exploration. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Siya. Angela, do you wanna?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Siya. Thank you for sharing so much about your insights. My question is, with AI tools becoming capable of producing convincing but sometimes inaccurate or fabricated content, how can educators in person or using OpenAI's ChatGPT or through other tools, equip students with the skills to critically assess credibility, verify sources, and discern fact from AI hallucination. And I ask this because, one, I have experience with AI hallucination myself, whether it's through work or through personal conversations with ChatGPT, but I also have heard educators around in my network who have this so much.
Thanks for the question. I think two things here. One is that the AI reflection forums I talked about are a great way to get that insight into how students kind of assessed the potential hallucination risks of those kind of things and being able to guide them in a more transparent way. The second thing is that we're trying really hard to improve our outputs, like to have our models be less agreeable in nature, which leads to hallucinations, but also to share the links of where they got the information. So if you use search or deep research, it already showcases those links. And our goal is that individuals can then vet those links and decide for themselves. Because honestly, misinformation is not a problem that's going to go away ever. It's going to exist in every form, right? Even articles can be wrong. So we need the skill to come back to the individual to be like, hey, this doesn't sound quite right. And like AI is not the answer to everything. It needs to be assessed.
Thank you so much, Siya.
Thank you. Brian, welcome.
Hi, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Thank you. Sia, it's been a pleasure to hearing you. Well, I have a question considering the growing role of artificial intelligence in education. Many platforms limit the number of questions, or they also reserve advanced models for paid plans. So, do you think this could create a new educational gap between public and private schools, or should AI for students can be entirely free to ensure equal access in opportunities in learning? Or do you think paid guarantees sustainability and quality? I would like to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, great question. Brian, the truth is that it's very expensive to host these models and enable these conversations, especially the scale that these companies are operating at. Even that they are like, I mean, there is a cost component associated with it, which runs in the billions of dollars, as you all have seen online from burn rates. It becomes very difficult to think about these decisions because, yes, it's very important to provide that access, and that's why the free model matters so much to OpenAI, and that's why like so many people use it around the world. As far as the gaps go, I think what I hear right now is that individuals try out different models, can take advantage of whatever is accessible for free. I think over time the costs are going to go down, and that'll enable more opportunities for like how do we increase advanced model access. So I'm sure you follow Sam Altman's tweets as he talks about how much more becomes accessible to free. Even our newest models like GPT-5 and study mode came to free at the same time that they did for Plus to provide that. It matters a lot to us as a company. Now the goal is just to figure out the economics behind it.
Thank you, Sia.
See, yeah, I've heard you mention the word build at least 3 or 4 times during this. That pertains to a realm where perhaps many educators are not too familiarized with, which is that of technological and digital development. And I would really love to expand on that point because at least in Latin America, there have been attempts to like create the STEAM movement, and like try to get students interested in science, in math, in engineering, and so on. But I think that what we're seeing right now is something that go like 2 or 3 orders of consequences beyond that more mechanic transition of, hey, let's try to get more people to go and enroll in engineering degrees, because it has to do with how, given the acceleration of AI, pretty much all aspects of economy are going to become eventually digital and hence available for the discovery of new business opportunities seized by those who build. So could you elaborate what you mean when you use the word build under this scenario?
Yeah, I think we need to shift away from teaching subjects and instead like shift towards teaching for how do we fulfill individual aspirations. And what I mean by that specifically is like, why are we forcing like that, like studying math or studying science is going to get you to the output versus like, okay, you like roller skating. Let's talk about the physics behind that. Let's help you build a better roller skate in the class. Let's help you like be able to like build like mechanically the different types of future roller skates that you think can exist, right? Rocket powered ones, whatever it is, right? Like, I was a really bad student when I think back to my college years. Like, I think those C's were well deserved, right? Because I wasn't studying in class the way that my professors were teaching, and I didn't resonate or care. But what I did care about at that time was like this book I was writing. I did care about the startup I was building. All projects in the grand scheme of my career so far, but they were really create really good creative outlets that let me develop my skills in ways that I wasn't learning in school. And I think being able to give more people the resources and skills to do that will help them just gain the agency that'll then build the really impactful projects they'll go on to do. So my startup had, I think, two paid customers. We were very excited about them. I think it covered dinner for like 4 or 5 nights for me and my team of 4 people. But it was just so fulfilling to go through a sales cycle, actually get money from a company, right? And that taught me a lot more about like the sales and business development work I did after than I would have learned in the classroom. So letting students tap into those aspirations in whatever way interests them is super powerful, and that's where the build element comes in. Let's free our students from like the curriculum restraints that have held them back for so long.
Amen to that. Wanna close us off this evening?
Yes, just thank you, Sia, for being with us on this webinar. Like a lot of different things are happening, and the evolution of ChatGPT, the evolution of OpenAI is fantastic. As you mentioned, like in a month, you can be, if you don't pay attention, things can evolve so quickly. And in education, sometimes we are scared of what is happening, and as teachers, sometimes we try just to stay with the things that we know. But as you have been mentioning, we have to try and we have to really use it because this is the future. And really, we don't know in 2 years, Paty was mentioning like in 90 days, what is going to happen. And just to see the future that is going to change in 90 days, we have to be prepared. Thank you, Sia. I don't know if you have another final comment for our group. Paty, Gustavo.
I'll give Siya the floor.
Thanks so much, everyone. Honestly, doing such impactful work across the education sector. I'm really grateful to have met all of you. And yeah, the ways to connect with the OpenAI community are through the forum link, which I dropped here. It's basically a network of people thinking about AI transformation around the world. The conversations I love the most in the forum are like, what is the future of math in the over reasoning era with like this amazing UCLA professor? Or like, how is Harvard Business School teaching digital marketing with AI? So really fascinating conversations. We'd love to hear your insights there. And would also love to connect on LinkedIn. I post a lot of like my thoughts or interesting things I see there. So please reach out if there's anything I can help with.
Thanks a lot, Sia. Paty, Gus.
Yeah, and just don't forget to join the Harvard Alumni for Education network in the Latin America and the Caribbean region. We're so excited that we even transcended our geographical region just because this is a topic of so much importance. We will be sharing soon what the upcoming webinars for this fall semester are going to be. So if you join and register on the link that Eric just provided on the chat, we'll make sure to send all of the information with you about upcoming conversations as insightful as this one. So thank you so much, Sia, for your time, and congratulations on the work you guys at OpenAI are doing for the world.
Thank you.
And just a huge thanks, Siya. I think that from my side, there's still an important conversation to have all about gender. So I think that maybe we can have a second round of this insightful reflections from your side, but I think that was amazing people that join us. I'm sure that this is keep going far and beyond from what is happening. And thank you very much, Siya. Thank you very much for your time, your generosity, for being here. And gracias a todas y a todos.
Gracias. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.